My name is Michael, and up until a few months ago, I thought I had everything a man could ask for. A beautiful wife named Samantha, a smart and loving 12-year-old son named Leo, and a steady job in sales that paid well enough for us to live comfortably. From the outside, we were the picture of a happy family. But inside, cracks had already started to form, small, silent fractures that I ignored for far too long. Samantha works long hours as a nurse, often picking up double shifts at the hospital. I always admired her dedication, but over the past year, she'd become a ghost in our home. We rarely spoke more than a few sentences in a day, and even when we did, it was usually about Leo's school or bills. The intimacy disappeared first. Then the laughter. Eventually, it felt like we were roommates parenting the same child. I told myself it was just a rough patch, that we were both just tired. But deep down, I was lonely, aching for some kind of connection. That's when Clara entered the picture. She was new to our office. Charming, clever, with this laid-back energy that drew people in. She'd recently gone through a divorce, and in some strange way, we were both broken in ways we didn't speak about. It started with coffee. Then conversations over lunch. At first, it felt innocent, just two adults talking about life. But the lines started to blur. She laughed at my jokes. She noticed when I got a haircut. She asked questions Samantha hadn't asked in years. The first time we kissed, I pulled away immediately. Told her it was a mistake. I went home that night and stared at Samantha while she slept, guilt eating away at me. But instead of confessing or confronting the problem in my marriage, I buried it. I told myself it was just one kiss. A moment of weakness. It didn't mean anything. But it did. A week later, I found myself back at Clara's apartment. The second time, I didn't hesitate. We crossed a line, and I knew there was no going back. And yet, I went back a third time. Then a fourth. I became someone who lied without blinking, who cleared his browser history, who memorized new lies to tell the people he once told the truth. At home, I smiled for Leo, pretended everything was fine. I took him to soccer practice, helped with homework, tucked him in at night. But I was living a double life, convincing myself I had control. That I could juggle both. That I could have Clara's attention and Samantha's loyalty without losing either. I was wrong. Every time I walked through the front door, I felt like a criminal returning to the scene. Samantha would ask how my day was, and I'd give short, safe answers. She didn't ask many questions. Maybe she trusted me too much, or maybe she was just too exhausted to notice the change. Either way, I let the silence between us become permission. I took advantage of her absence in our marriage and used it as justification for my betrayal, but it was Leo the first lied to the most. He looked at me like I was some kind of superhero. The guy who could fix anything, make him laugh, show up when it mattered. He didn't know the kind of man I was becoming. Or maybe he did, and I just didn't want to see it. Every time he hugged me, I felt like I didn't deserve it. Every "I love you, Dad" felt like a knife. I never planned for it to go this far. I thought I had time. I thought I could clean it up before it exploded. But secrets have a way of surfacing at the worst possible moment. And when mine finally did, it wasn't Samantha who found out first, it was Leo. The one person whose opinion of me mattered more than anyone's. And in that single, silent moment, everything I had destroyed came crashing into view. It was a Friday evening. Samantha was on a 24-hour shift, and Leo had plans to sleep over at his friend Tyler's place. The house was supposed to be empty for the night. That sense of freedom gave me just enough justification to do something reckless. I invited Clara over. I told myself it would be quick, that we wouldn't take any risks. I ignored the knot in my stomach and the voice in my head that kept saying this was a bad idea. I was too deep in it to care. Clara arrived around 7. We laughed, drank a glass of wine, and for a short while, I let myself forget about everything else. I let myself enjoy it. I convinced myself that no one would ever know. In that moment, it didn't feel like betrayal. It felt like escape, but escape has consequences. I never heard the front door open. I never heard Leo's footsteps. His friend had gotten food poisoning, and his friend's mom drove him home early. No warning. No phone call. He walked inside quietly, probably expecting to find me watching TV. Instead, he heard voices coming from upstairs. Mine. Clara's. He followed the sound, confused. I didn't hear him until it was too late. The door opened fast. I turned, half-dressed, and saw him standing there. His backpack slid from his shoulder and hit the floor with a dull thud. He didn't say a word. His face didn't change. He just stood frozen, like his mind was trying to catch up with what his eyes were seeing. Clara gasped and covered herself. I lunged forward, but he was already backing out of the room, stumbling, shaking his head. By the time I pulled on my clothes and ran downstairs, he had locked himself in his room. I knocked, begged him to talk, but he didn't answer. I sat outside his door for an hour, trying to find the right words. But what do you say to your son after something like that? There's no explanation that makes sense. No apology that erases what he saw. Then I heard his voice. Just one word, through the door. Mom. He wouldn't speak to me, but he called his mother. I didn't know what he said to her, only that she showed up 2 hours later, still in her scrubs, eyes wide and searching. She walked in and saw my face. That was all it took. She knew. She didn't yell. Didn't ask questions. She walked straight to Leo's room. They stayed in there together for what felt like forever. I sat in the hallway, staring at nothing, waiting for a sentence I couldn't serve. When they came out, Leo wouldn't look at me. Samantha did. Her eyes were glassy but dry. How long? She asked. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. How long? She repeated. I told her the truth, or at least part of it. Weeks. She nodded. No crying. No breakdown. She just turned, packed a small bag for Leo, and walked out. She didn't slam the door. She didn't say goodbye. Just silence. I stood in the doorway as they got in the car. Leo didn't glance back once. That night, the house felt colder than I'd ever felt it. The walls felt too close, like they were closing in. The silence was unbearable. Every sound echoed. Every object reminded me of what I'd shattered. I sat on the living room couch until sunrise, still dressed, waiting for the nightmare to end. It didn't. That was just the beginning. Samantha didn't respond to my texts. She didn't answer my calls. When I tried reaching out to Leo, he left me on read. I didn't know what to do with myself. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. I just kept replaying that moment in my head, his face, the look in his eyes. It wasn't just shock. It was betrayal. I wasn't supposed to be that person. Not to him. I had told myself I was in control. That no one would get hurt. But I had underestimated the cost. I had destroyed my family, not with one decision, but with 1,000 little ones leading to it. And the person I hurt most wasn't the woman I married. It was the boy who looked up to me and believed I was better than this. Weeks turned into months, and I found myself waking up in a house that no longer felt like mine. Samantha never came back. Leo didn't either. Their absence was louder than any argument we could have had. The divorce papers arrived in an envelope on a Tuesday morning. No note. No warning. Just a signature line and a reminder of how far I'd fallen. I stared at them for hours before signing. Not because I didn't want to fight, but because I knew I had already lost. I didn't try to beg. I didn't chase them down. I knew better. What I did instead was sit with the consequences. Day after day, I sat with my choices, replaying each one. The missed opportunities to fix things. The lies. The selfishness. The moments I could have stopped but didn't. I didn't just cheat on my wife, I cheated on the life we built together. And worse, I cheated my son out of a version of me he believed in. I started therapy, not to win anyone back, but because I couldn't carry the weight alone anymore. I needed to face the truth I had avoided for so long. I was not the victim. I wasn't some misunderstood man who slipped. I was a grown adult who knew what he was doing and did it anyway. I created the storm and then acted surprised when everything drowned. There were nights I sat at the edge of Leo's bed, just staring at the toys he left behind. I'd pick up his favorite action figure and wonder if he'd ever look at me the same. The answer was always no. Even if he came back, even if time passed, I knew something had changed in him. The man who was supposed to protect his innocence was the one who shattered it. Then, one afternoon, a letter arrived. It was from Leo. Handwritten. Short sentences, Nothing emotional, just facts. I still love you. But I don't trust you. I don't know when I will. He said he missed the version of me that used to tuck him in, the dad who made pancakes on Sundays. But he also said he didn't know if that person was real or just someone I pretended to be. I read the letter 20 times. I cried harder than I had in my entire life. Because in his honesty, I saw the real cost of everything I'd done. It wasn't about losing a marriage or a routine. It was about losing a role I had taken for granted. Being a father isn't just a title. It's a responsibility, a promise. And I broke that promise in the most devastating way. I stopped seeing Clara. Not because it was the noble thing to do, but because I no longer needed distractions. I didn't need comfort. I needed accountability. I needed to feel the discomfort of my actions every single day. I went back to work and kept to myself. I spent weekends alone. No dating, no pretending to be okay. Just silence and slow rebuilding. I started writing letters to Leo, not to send them but to understand how I'd failed him. Every time I put pen to paper, I realized how many moments I'd chosen myself over them. The lies I told weren't just words, they were bricks I placed between us, one by one, until he couldn't see me anymore. There's no dramatic ending to this story. No moment where everything gets fixed. Samantha never reached out. Leo didn't suddenly come back. But I didn't expect that. I don't deserve that. What I do now is live with the truth. I wake up every day with one goal, to be someone worth forgiving, even if forgiveness never comes. If you're listening to this and you think your choices don't matter, that you can hide the damage, remember this, it's not just your life you're gambling with. It's the trust of the people who believe in you. And once you break that, it doesn't come back whole. Not ever. Infidelity didn't just cost me my family. It changed who I am in my son's eyes. And that, more than anything, is what I live with. Every single day. I never imagined rebuilding would feel like punishment. Every morning started the same, silence, followed by the weight of remembering. I wasn't waking up to Leo's footsteps or Samantha's tired smile. I was waking up to absence. No messages. No updates. Just this quiet confirmation that I was no longer needed. And I didn't blame them. That part hurt more than anything, that I understood why they left. I started writing a journal. Not because I thought it would fix anything, but because I needed to understand how someone like me, who swore he'd never be that kind of man, ended up here. The truth was brutal. I wanted to feel important. I wanted to feel seen. And instead of addressing that hole inside me, I fed it with attention, validation, and eventually betrayal. Clara didn't ruin my life. I did. She was a symptom. I was the cause. There were times I thought about driving to Samantha's place, just to see Leo. But I knew it wouldn't help. A surprise visit wouldn't undo the damage. A father doesn't get to demand space in his child's life after breaking that trust. I had to earn it back, if that was even possible, one silent day at a time. I spent my nights replaying conversations I should have had. Times I should have opened up to Samantha instead of shutting down. I remembered the night she asked if I was happy, and I brushed it off with a joke. That was a door, and I closed it. I blamed her distance, her long hours, her exhaustion. But I never asked what she needed. I never met her halfway. I convinced myself she stopped trying, when really, I was already looking for the exit. When I talked to my therapist about it, she asked what I would say to Leo if I ever got the chance. I didn't even know. Not because I didn't care, but because no words felt big enough. How do you explain that your weakness hurt the person you love most? How do you apologize for changing the way they look at love, trust, and loyalty before they even became a teenager? I tried writing that letter 100 times. Each time I stopped halfway. Not because it was hard, but because I didn't want to use words as a shortcut. Sorry wasn't enough. I needed to show it, not say it. So I focused on being consistent. I sent birthday cards, even when I knew I wouldn't get a reply. I dropped off gifts at the doorstep without a note. Not for recognition, just to remind him that I was still here. Still trying. I never once asked Samantha to forgive me. I knew she gave everything she had. I failed her, and she had every right to walk away. But I hoped, quietly, that someday, she'd see the man I was trying to become. Not to take me back, but to know I didn't waste the chance to grow. She gave me the silence I needed to finally listen to myself. Sometimes, I think about what Leo will be like at 16, 18, 20. I wonder if we'll ever sit across from each other again. If he'll let me explain. If he'll ask why. And when that moment comes, if it comes, I won't defend myself. I won't blame the circumstances. I'll look him in the eye and take whatever he needs to say. Because he deserves that. Because I owe him that. I don't know if I'll ever be part of their lives again. But I've made peace with the uncertainty. What I do know is this: the man I was then doesn't get to exist anymore. That man made selfish choices and hid behind excuses. The man I'm trying to be now doesn't lie. Doesn't run. Doesn't pretend love is unconditional if he's not willing to protect it. This journey isn't about getting back what I lost. It's about becoming someone who never lets it happen again. Someone who understands that loyalty isn't measured in intentions, but in actions when no one is watching. I lost the most important people in my life because I forgot that. And I'll carry that lesson with me for the rest of my life. Not as guilt, but as a reminder of what love actually demands.